Hello everyone, my name is RWBY, and this is what I think about the new RWBY anime, RWBY Ice Queendom, coming out in a few months in the summer. I've already made a couple news videos about it, going over the details, like what we know, what we still have to speculate on, that sort of thing, so if you're out of the loop, those will get you up to speed. But I haven't given all of my thoughts on it yet, because I've just been sticking to what is news, what do we know. It's hard for me not to be excited for a new RWBY anime. It's got a nostalgia factor, it's in 2D animation from a major studio, it's retelling the original story, but also exploding it into something different, new characters, new settings, new Grimm. The only thing it will take me a while to get used to is the way that the characters' eyes are. The extra ring feels a little weird. I haven't watched an anime with that style before, so it's not bad, it's just not what I'm used to. The story is back at Beacon, and I totally get why. After the main series flips the story on its head and becomes a worldwide adventure, an alternate story casting the widest net to have the biggest audience and the most creative freedom would have the story take place at Beacon before all of that happened. That's where the Japanese writers can tell an original story with Team RWBY while still allowing it to maybe be canon. Beacon was the beginning, before the story truly showed itself. So for all of the people who liked Beacon for what it was, I think this will deliver a lot, right? Maybe you didn't stick with the show after Beacon. I still encourage you to watch this. It could stick to the elements that you loved. I've heard a lot of folks who are caught up on the show, who do watch it, who do engage with it. They get somewhat exasperated knowing that the better this anime is, the more likely they are to hear a lot of comments about how it's so much better than the main series, and Miles and Carrie this, and the Japanese writers that, and the animation team this, or this proves that whatever. To me, the more people who like the anime, the better. It's as simple as that. You don't have to listen to the detractors. Don't engage with toxicity and don't let them ruin your enjoyment of something. I hope as many people can like and find enjoyment in RWBY as possible, in whatever form that is. Because at the end of the day, that's what it is. It's an entertainment property. But for those of us who are caught up on the main show, I think this will be quite the unique experience. Because remember, these are the characters as of Volume 1, right? We have to keep that in mind. So if the anime decides to stick to the characters exactly as they were, RWBY is incredibly naive. Weiss has some self-importance and some prejudice to overcome. Blake has closed herself off from people. Yang is naive in a sense as well and is a thrill seeker. Jean is still a dork with some toxic masculinity to overcome. Pyrrha thinks everyone in existence puts her on a pedestal in their minds. Nora is one-dimensional and bubbly. Ren is one-dimensional and reserved, right? So we have to remember these aren't the characters that we have now in the main series. These are characters who haven't gone through anything together yet. They are the characters that played into anime tropes before getting more fleshed out and subverting them. I wouldn't be surprised if the anime leaned much more heavily into the tropes. This is Japan, right? But of course, this anime has been described as canon adjacent, meaning it very well could be considered canon if you wanted it to be, but you also don't really need to take it that way if you don't want to. So I do believe it will stick more closely to the character growth that we do have in the main series. I want to dissect those words again. Canon adjacent. They've caused a lot of discussion already. Basically, Rooster Teeth's head of licensing and consumer products, Jeff Yetter, said the anime is not a reboot and it is not an alternate universe, it is quote-unquote canon adjacent. They think of an alternate universe, or AU, basically the same as how people who write fanfiction would. If you read or write fanfiction, you know what I'm talking about. Like, this is a high school AU, or this is a grimdark AU, or like this is a zombie AU, I don't know. But Rooster Teeth is saying that Ice Queendom is not set in an alternate universe, in that there is nothing fundamentally different about the universe the story takes place in. It is still the same world of Remnant from the main series, and the characters play basically the same role in it. It is so similar that the story begins by retelling parts of Volume 1 and Volume 2. But we know the story is different, obviously, so think of it as an alternate timeline. They have new outfits, Weiss and Pyrrha have something crazy going on, so they're not just retelling the main series but in 2D animation. There are new characters, new Grimm, new places, like I said before. And I'm all for it. While I know a lot of people only like Beacon, I've also seen people who are tired of the side material or alternate material from the main series focusing on Beacon. And I get that. Like, I'd love for RWBY's main series to have a whole anthology season, like Red vs. Blue Season 14, if you're familiar with that. But that would need to wait until the main story is over. The vibe that I get from Ice Queendom is that it will be canon despite telling a wildly different story. So no matter how far it diverges, it would probably still be roped back in at the end. I've seen some dreamscape theories, and I think it would be cool if the story tells two narrative arcs where one is Beacon as usual, but the other is maybe Weiss's imagination or has to do with the mirror. The mirror would be where the new story and all of the new outfits come into play, and it would make sense why Blake has ears and a tail. Because remember, in the main series, Faunus have only one animal trait. Blake has cat ears. So if Weiss is involved in a second timeline where it's not real and everyone has new outfits, Blake could have a fully functioning cat tail along with her ears. I doubt it's just there for aesthetics. The anime retelling the events of Volume 1 and Volume 2 in only 2 episodes might not seem like enough time, but I can see how they would do it, honestly. They don't need to retell everything. Just the parts of the main story that matter to the anime's new story, which might mean retelling only the things that matter from Weiss's perspective. And Volume 1 was only an hour and 50 minutes long. Volume 2 was 2.5 hours. I think Episode 1 will retell the first half of Volume 1, so the robbery up through the initiation. And then Episode 2 is the Borbatusk fight, Blake going missing in Vale, and however much of Volume 2 they deem necessary. I doubt all of Volume 2 will be in it, or really even that much of it. Like, Mountain Glen? No. The dance? Maybe. The food fight? That would be very nice to see in 2D. But so much of Volume 2 is in service of Volume 3. And if I were RWBY Ice Queendom, I would stay firmly in the Beacon class time era of the main series. Episode 2 will finish the recap and then probably end on the twist that turns it into a new story. And even though the story is quote-unquote canon adjacent right now, if it is successful enough of an anime to get a second season and maybe even more, I wouldn't doubt that the writing would decide, yeah, we're just gonna make this non-canon at this point. There's some wild stories we'd love to tell, and keeping it canon would just prevent them. And the floodgates would open, and I would love that. We know that Jeff and Casey Lee Williams are not providing the opening or ending music. That's a huge part of the main series' appeal, but I don't think that it's too necessary, to be honest. With everything else about the anime being Japan-produced, I'm all for seeing a holistically Japanese RWBY, right? Like, what would that look like? What would that sound like? And other than that, before I get into talking about my content, I'm honestly not sure how much of the cast that we know from Beacon in the main show, I'm not sure how much of that we can really guarantee we're going to see in the anime, right? I would love with all my heart if we just got like 1 or 2 shots of Team Coffee and that was it. Because I can't guarantee that we're going to see too many people in the anime other than Team RWBY and Team Juniper and Ozpin and, Glinda and whatever professors they decide to show. Obviously, we have Professor Port's Grim class, so we're probably going to see him again, but we don't really know how big the scope of the story is, how many of the returning characters they're going to have, but I would love to see as many different characters that we have in the main series in this 2D, right? Because there's so many characters that we haven't even seen in years in the main series. We've seen what they look like in their old 3D models, but after the switch in animation software, we haven't even seen Team Coffee since then, right? I want to see Team Coffee in 2D. I want to see them in upgraded 3D, and I just feel like there's a lot of possibilities. And lastly, I'm not sure what my content will look like for RWBY Ice Queendom. This isn't being made or produced in-house at Rooster Teeth, and the last time that happened, a lot of YouTube creators are rightfully wary after receiving copyright strikes on their Genlock reaction videos. So reactions might not be possible. We are still waiting on an answer for that. People have asked Jeff Yetter about that, and he said, we'll get back to you on that. If they are possible, I will probably react. And if not, then I'll see what other kinds of content I'd be interested to make. For RWBY Volume 8, I did chapter reviews with a top 5 style of format, and I want to switch it up, but I'm not sure how I'm going to do that yet. So I'm not really sure what I'm going to do in place of the chapter reviews, even when Volume 9 comes back. That's everything. If I want to add something, it will be in a pinned comment. Other than that, we are just a couple months away from the summer release, and I cannot wait. What do you hope the new RWBY anime is like? What about it is interesting to you? Let me know down below. And as always, like and subscribe. I'll see you next time. I'm Raijin Rising. Have a good one.